Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure today to announce I have Hell Hades on the channel. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really well, yeah. Darth, it's been a minute since we've been on the channel together. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, it's actually been a long time. I was sitting here thinking that I don't think we've ever done a collab, but that's not true because you were on the channel, admittedly with other people, when I crunched my Mountain King.
I remember it well. I remember the pain. It actually took me probably about another 18 months until I got my own Mountain King. But yeah, no, it's good to do it, man. Good to be on.
So we have Hell Hades on today for a couple reasons, one of which has been forever since we've done anything. But the other one, and probably the more primary reason, to be honest with you, is that Hell Hades is the only one that can answer quite a bit of the questions from some dialogue that I feel like has been kind of thrown around a little bit lately. And so what we're going to do is kind of just take a non-emotional take. We're just going to walk through the data, look at the actual answer to the question, is Raid Shadow Legends dying, at least from the perspective of YouTubers. So, you know, from here, do you have anything you want to say in the beginning?
Well, one thing I will say is, like probably all of us, when the situation happened with Ukraine and Russia, when that first kicked off, damn, what a worrying time where you actually see your channel, your figures, obviously horrendous personally for these guys as well. Right. But for me personally, it was also like, damn, you don't expect any of this stuff to happen, but just to see your channel nosedive, even for 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, is really a bit of an eye-opener. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting topic because we can look at it from a couple of angles, like what's happened in the recent past, but also kind of where does the game feel like it's been going on a longer trajectory. And it's quite cool to dive into this stuff. I'm always in my analytics, so it's actually quite cool just to, in a geeky way, to just talk through some of it, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think being a YouTuber, you almost have to be a little bit like neurotic and OCD. You have to constantly be, it's a very almost unhealthy lifestyle, but I think that's kind of a topic for a different day, to be honest. So a couple things to point out about what you just said is, yeah, lately the data is probably, like the last 30 days, the data might be like a little bit askew or something because obviously they're quite rarely getting bombed, so that's going to alter things. Yeah. However, we're going to be looking at sets of data within like the, you know, the year to 2 year type of bracket, and we'll be walking through that data somewhat slowly and kind of discussing the primary point of the video, which is Raid Shadow Legends shrinking? Are the views on YouTube going down? Are all of us going to end up having to get day jobs? Is Hell Hades' Lamborghini going to go unwashed today? Essentially, I think is
which one?
You know, yeah, there you go. Okay, well, before we even get into which one, the real question is, if you had a Lamborghini, do you go with the neon green, the yellow, or the orange?
Yeah, see, I wouldn't go for a Lamborghini, actually. I'd go for a Lotus Elise, and I'd go for...
Oh, wow, okay, good point.
Kind of, yeah, yellow. I'd go for that kind of yellow, you know, like the traditional Lotus that you'd see, I think. Yeah. What about you, man?
What about me?
You're into bikes, actually, aren't you? Yeah.
I'm into bikes. I'm going to be. I think what I want right now is a. It's called an. Oh, this is getting way off topic, but now you got me all excited about motorcycles. It's called a Ducati V4S, which is basically like their MotoGP motorcycle that you can buy as a consumer. It's called the weapons grade motorcycle. But anyway.
We digress.
We do in fact digress. So. Primary point I think we should probably go for first, and I'm just going to throw this right out to you. Do you think Raid's dying? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. No.
So the thesis in which we have to prove today, my friend, is absolutely not Raid Shadow Legends is dying. Now, the first bit of data we're going to be looking at is Hell Hades himself channel. Let me get rid of this Milwaukee battery ad here. Thank you very much. Oh, a YouTube ad. Maybe I'll leave that one. So here we have your views, and it's a bar go up. I think a better way to see it is this one. Bar goes up, basically. If this was a crypto graph of which you own this coin, you'd be feeling pretty good right about now. You got anything to say about the fact that your data shows nothing but consistent growth? And then point this out real quick for the people on YouTube. Consistent, solid end-over-end growth is not easy to accomplish on YouTube. Just factually, it's not. Go look up your favorite YouTuber and tell me if their bar looks like that.
Yeah, it's honestly, it still blows my mind. It blows my mind that the graph looks like that. And what's quite an interesting one is the graph below it. You can see quite clearly where I had a shout out in game.
Yeah.
Because that's a subscriber count. And actually, subscriber counts don't generally spike. Or if they do, it's because, you know, you're perhaps a channel that's absolutely blowing up. But even to have a flat line of subscriber growth, I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, I mean, in terms of view growth, you know, it's
crazy.
I can't call it lucky because I feel like I work bloody hard every single day to keep that moving, to keep it going, to try and reinvent the channel every few months. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I do, but ultimately that wouldn't be happening if the game wasn't in a really solid position. You just wouldn't maintain view growth if the game wasn't in a really solid place. And you can see dips and peaks and troughs like you would in any type of growth. You know, growth never, I mean, I've come from sales, so I get a bit salesy here, but growth is never a straight line. Actually, often, even the biggest companies, they kind of zigzag their way up.
Yeah.
And that's a really healthy thing to do because, you know, it almost makes you realize, hold on a minute, we probably need to address something here, which is what I do. You know, I kind of look at stuff and say, well, hold on a minute, why am I suddenly starting to drop off and what else can I do? But ultimately, it's a really solid place to be.
Would you say it's fair to say that the YouTube algorithm is snowbally, where the person at the top tends to gain traction quicker and more often?
I think so. I think it's quite hard to get into the position that you become most recommended, especially from a standing start. It's incredibly difficult, and it's why you probably don't see people diversify their channels too much. You know, if I just suddenly started to do videos on a different game that I enjoyed, my channel would die off very quickly and then have to rebuild itself.
Yep, I've done that like 4 times.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. But yeah, if you've got yourself into a niche that you are strong in, then YouTube pushes you to be stronger, basically. Sometimes I suppose sometimes, at the cost of others, which is obviously out of my control, but it's quite difficult for multiple people to be fed in that way. Yeah.
It's the nature of business too. And sorry, not to cut you off at the end there. If you look, I wanted to. The reason I ask is I wanted to make a comparison and kind of lead us down the conversational point here. Which this is Arnold T101, a guy that I admire a pretty good amount for being a very hard worker. I compare him kind of to yourself, where he started in one game, long form content fairly consistently, quality increasing fairly consistently. The only thing I'd say he does different is he adds in a pretty significant amount of YouTube live streams where he has crazy art graphics and stuff. Like he is over the top. He's got his own like music and all.
I've seen a couple of ad type things that he's done, and he does seem like wacky in those anyway. What I've seen is kind of like he seems like very out there, but that's cool. I mean, that's obviously his style. Or
he's an entertaining guy, and I feel like you can't watch any of his stuff without thinking he's putting effort in. You know what I mean? Like he shows up every day, and he's also a lawyer. He did all of this while passing the bar and going to law school, by the way, which I found extremely impressive. So you were talking about how these graphs almost fall upwards, basically, when it comes to, because you're using your sales reference here, and I want to use Arnold T101 as maybe an example of this. If you look here, you can see it's sort of falling upward. He's tending to be higher and higher in terms of what his views are looking like. And this is in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, a fairly old mobile game.
Is it like 8 to 10 years old? As old as that?
I think it's like 6 or 7. I think it's getting around there. I don't know if it's quite 10 years, but it's an older game, man. I mean, it's been around a while. It was the game in which I started, by the way. So like it's
So your channel started in this game, did it?
Yeah, without this game, I would be nowhere, but like 100%. Because like I hit it just right, and I kind of started growing on the scene. Like my first month, I got 4,000 subs, to give you an idea, and I was growing fairly rapidly.
Nice.
And Star Wars Galaxy Heroes community was all great and everything too. Like I had a good time there. But what I wanted to do was, because you were saying at the cost of others, which is probably a good segue into saying that Arnold T101 is basically the last man standing. If somebody is, let's say, dominating the algorithm of like, at least in the mobile game. I'm only going to talk about the stuff I know. So in the mobile game, I've been in a bunch of them. It always seems to be the same thing. It happened with Genshin, Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, Marvel Future Revolution, because I was even on the upside of that one in Marvel Future Revolution, to give you an idea. And we're going to talk about that as another example here in a moment. essentially what happens is the guy on the top is going to get recommended more or less first, which doesn't mean that that's why they're doing good. I mean, there's reasons as to why you grew. It's not just suddenly YouTube decided how Hades is now number one. You have, a whole team and all this stuff, but it is allows you to continue your growth, basically. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think it allows me to be found easier. And the thing with these type of games is you've got a very small percentage of the players are the hardcore end game. They've been here for 2.5, 3 years. And actually, the vast majority of players are people that play the game for up to 6 months, probably up to 3 months for the majority, but say up to 6 months. So and actually I realized this quite early on, I need to make sure that I'm accessible to a really wide range of audience. I need to make sure that my content, it can work with some of those end game players at times, but I need to pitch it at people that are going to want to watch this stuff day in, day out, and they're coming through the game. So I feel like I push my content in a way that helps me get pushed by YouTube, but ultimately, once I've got myself into that spot, it keeps grinding, it keeps working.
And we're leading to kind of a more primary point here, which is that essentially the person at the top is going to be gaining more and more and more views. Everyone else is slowly going to be declining. And it's not the person's fault at the top the other people are declining. It's because there's only so many views within any niche genre that there's just gonna have happen. There's only so many people that are gonna be able to be interested in a topic and click and watch eyes, okay? So in Raid Shadow Legends, pretty much the best way to tell is there people still watching it is we look at how Hades' channel, we look at Arnold's channel if we wanna know Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, okay? Because if the game is dying, the person who is going to feel it the most is the person at the top. Because in my opinion, the people at the bottom, I'm going to put like me there, for instance, because I don't think I get quite a lot of views. Us, we have a core dedicated audience, which will watch us and we'll get a continual amount of small views, but we're not going to feel the impact if the game goes to zero as much as the person who's getting pretty much all of the new viewers, not all of them, but the vast majority, I would say, of the data. So you're not seeing that decline, correct?
No. Yeah, so I'd say consistently the last 3 months I've gone above 3 million views. And actually 3 months ago was the first time I ever hit 3 million views. So I absolutely continuously seen growth. Apart from in the last few weeks, which has just been the anomaly of the world absolutely, going nuts. But that's pretty far out of anyone's control here and completely, unexpected. But yeah, other than that, it's just been consistent growth for me.
And there's other people that are growing too, which it's not just you who are growing. There's other people who are still growing. Look at J-Gigs. And probably, my favorite content creator, to be honest. The guy's just fucking hilarious.
He's killing it, actually. Absolutely killing it, yeah.
He's killing it. He's doing great. Look at the graph. He's going up. Pretty much end over end every month. He's been going up consistently. He's doing an all-Y moving, and I love the guy. So it's great to see the growth. I want to use another comparison, which is other competitors in the scene are maybe shrinking. So this isn't a shot. I love Ash. I do tons of videos with him. We're just looking at data here, okay, people? Yeah. So let's get that straight. If we look at the data from Ash, pretty much consistently from April 2021, and I don't know whether or not that maybe he's doing less videos. I don't know any of that, okay? So I didn't do my homework, admittedly. I'm just looking at the data, okay? If we look at it month over month, it seems to be going down slightly. So if I was
Can you show his graph a bit lower? I'm just curious now. Yeah, so he's probably peaked and flatlined by the looks of it, isn't it? It's almost. It's interesting. I'm just curious because I know that Ash. I mean, I do a lot of stuff with Ash as well, and I really like the guy. And I think he is one of the people that I take a lot of or have taken a lot of advice from, just because he really understands how algorithms work, and he creates content which absolutely benefits his channel growing over time. But I have noticed that on his channel, I see a lot of his videos pop up like everyone else would. And I've noticed a lot of his videos have pushed more towards similar style of content. And it might be shard pools or whatever. And it might be he's got less time to do stuff. So I know he's got like 3 channels going now. It might be that, I don't know what the reason for that. But it's just interesting to see how how his channel's doing, which I wasn't aware that he was kind of hit a bit of a peak.
Yeah, so we're just using it as one such example, because there's another example as I was looking up here where Scratch, for instance, is another guy who's been growing and doing fairly well. You look at him, he seems to be fairly consistently falling upwards, like you were mentioning before.
Yeah,
like
definitely, yeah.
He's growing for sure. And I think this kind of goes to him increasing the level of his content. You know, I mean, the quality has gone up significantly since we've known Scratch. You know, and he's become more entertaining. I think he's putting out more videos too. So he's been putting more effort in and getting the results for that as well. So there is people still growing. So you can see where our point is, or at least how I feel like my point is. You say you don't think the game's dying. I don't think the game's dying because the data doesn't show it's dying. Before we talk about anything else, I want to show here, I also have the data here from Google Trends. So I pulled up Google Trends. In order to just see, and in my opinion, Google Trends is sort of like, you don't really almost need any other data. It's just like people are Googling stuff is kind of the world's database. So you can look at the data here. Now, if you look at this, you could probably, let me move you up here real quick here. If you look at this, you could probably tell yourself that the game is dying because it hit a peak. I'm assuming this is an advertising peak and it's been slowly declining ever since, but mildly, okay? I mean, since...
You know what? It's interesting to see it because I would almost put money on. There's two things it could be. So, because I see my analytics from hellhades.com, and we see this kind of peak, lull, peak, lull, peak, lull every 6 weeks when there's a 2 times ancient event on. So we know that that's what we compare. That's kind of like always our benchmark. Where are we this 2 times ancients versus the last one? Is our website growing? But also, I'd imagine that's probably things when they do like the ninja push or the simple push, you know, getting these big names in, like you say, massive marketing campaigns. And that's really healthy for the game. Like whether you like the dudes, whether you like their content, all that type of stuff. For me, I'm just like, great. You know, the marketing team are going out and they're connecting with people and they're making sure that new users are coming to the game. And that, you know, as a content creator, damn, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a team that care about trying to keep people engaged in the game and try and keep new people coming to the game. So, so it's interesting to see.
Pretty much any game is going to have a peak after launch, and then there's never going to be a recovery. If you want to see what game dying actually looks like, we can talk about a game like Marvel Future Revolution. That's what a game launching and dying looks like, my friend. So the conversation of is Raid Shadow Legends dying? Yes, in the same way that a newborn child is dying. You know, it will be dead. Because it's now expending its lifespan. For sure, that child is dying. But absolutely not, is my answer, basically, is what I'm seeing here. Like, in Marvel Future Revolution, I could sneeze and put out a video, and it would get, like, 20K views almost instantly when it launched. And then at the end, when I quit the game, it was, like, 4K views, 5K views. I mean, and it wasn't like I stopped doing content. It was just, like, the game just fucking crashed, you know, harder than anything I've seen in forever. And that's because they did, like, 3 horrible. I mean, the worst patch you can imagine in a row, like back to back to back to back. It was just, they killed their audience like entirely. Plus, they only dumped advertising into the first week.
It's actually a testament to how well games like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes have done, because that's over a long period of time now. So it's a bit like of its genre, a bit like a Clash of Clans. You know, these games which just are able to keep a player base playing the game for a huge amount of time. You know, look at that. I mean, Clash of Clans there, consistently keeping that level for years. Or what's that? 4 years of consistently keeping interest. You know, without doing that much to the game, it still looks pretty much the same. It's they've I don't know. I don't play the game anymore, but they've launched kind of a few different heroes and stuff. But ultimately, it's the same game. You know, 5 years on.
Yep, and people could say that Clash of Clans is dying, looking at that data. You know what I mean? But the game is absolutely massive. So I think it kind of depends upon how you interpret the data looking into it. And if you look at, like, it's pretty easy to say the game's dying when you are a content creator. Like, I'm looking up all the content creators to see it here. Like, I want to use Cubs Fan Han as an example here. So Cubs Fan Han's in the same game that Arnold T101 was. They were approximately the same size a while ago when I was in there. Arnold was bigger, but Cubs Fan was slowly around there. He's still playing the game and making content on it. But he's gone from, like, let's see here. Okay, so like this is what can happen when you're staying in a game where effectively there's one person who is just dominating the competition. Like, it has better quality content, is getting recommended more, has more videos, pays for advertising, whatever you want to call it, okay? Then you're going to decline consistently. Now, it could be pretty easy for Cubs fan Han to say, well, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is dying, and that is why my channel is going down. Well, if that is true, then why is, and I'm not saying Cubs is saying this, just so you know, okay? This is just what I'm, example here, hypothetical. But if that is true, then why is Arnold T101 consistently growing? It's because, one, the game still has people playing it, and two, his channel adds value and entertainment beyond just the game. So you're getting people who want to watch you more than just that as well. So I think this conversation about is Raid Shadow Legends dying is just no. I would say some YouTube channels are dying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some people will almost look at data over a way too short period of time. So they might look at, over the last 2 weeks, does it feel like a channel has dropped off? And we all felt that, we all felt that big time, obviously, with everything that's going on. But even before that, you have lulls where there's not a lot coming through. There's not big updates coming through. And I mean, I've got to say, right now, considering, the back of what all the guys in Ukraine are dealing with, they are knocking it out the park with the amount of content they are dropping back in. And, some people, I don't know how much you kind of are invested in Raid in terms of, when new stuff's dropped, is that still a passion of yours or what have you? And I know even myself, like, my passion has dropped compared to what it was 2 years ago about stuff like that. But ultimately, you see these things coming through, and you're like, damn, this is actually got tons of stuff going on in the game where probably we're expecting a couple of months of nothing. So I've just got to say, like, hats off to them for pulling that off, honestly. But yeah, if you look over the last 6 months, there's loads of things that are dropping.
Yeah, no, the game has got consistent updates. I almost feel like I've flip-flopped to the point where I'm, like, overwhelmingly positive about the game. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I played all these games. Like, that's the thing. I went and I played all the games. Like, I've played the Marvel one, I played the Genshin, I play all these different big-name games, and I try them all. I try to make content on all of them, blah, blah, blah. I did the whole jury rig, right? And all of these games have problems. There's no game that you can play because all of them are designed to draw thousands of dollars out of you. And with that comes inherent baked and caked in problems. So effectively, what I've realized is, unless you're playing like a $60 game or an MMO or something, like, the conversation is basically how expensive is the game. Is what it boils down to, and how often is the content being provided in which you can play new things with the heroes you already own. That's basically it. And I would argue that Raid in the first year was god awful. Like, I mean, we got Faction Wars, and that was bad. And the community, we
got a roadmap, but nothing to back it up. That's pretty much
exactly. Like, there was just nothing, dude. We were out there starving. Everyone was having to make. I mean, every single video was just Cold Hard Champion Guide, Chris Champion Guide, whatever. Because there's no content to make. You can't talk about anything because there's nothing to talk about. But now in the game, I mean, we got 10x, 2x, we got bonus legendary events. Okay, we got the guaranteed one after so many. That all of that stuff is new. Okay, the Lydia is new. Blah 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 blah. We can go down the list and talk about it forever. But it's getting to the point where the consistency of updates is pretty good. I mean, now we're starting to get into quality of life, like the market and stuff, or the sliding bars with in the tavern, I should say, not the market. And so the quality of life changes for me are something that should have happened like year one.
Absolutely right.
And then all the content. So I can understand the frustration there, and maybe it feels like they're milking the length of the game artificially just a little bit by, like, slowly adding in all the things that these other games are dropping literally on launch day. And I can understand that level of frustration, but that doesn't mean the game's dying.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, like, I'd imagine some of that stuff was already, like, good to go. But when they look at their plan, they must be thinking, well, we need to constantly drop stuff in. So if we dropped everything today and we haven't really got a backup for next month, the following month, pretty much you kind of get to the point where it's like, yeah, great. Today was great. what's next, and they don't have an answer for what's next. And it's quite a clever way to update your game. If you've got a bunch of stuff that's ready to go, it's not brilliant for the player that's playing right now, but ultimately it does keep people coming back to say, okay, what's dropped this month? What's dropped this month? Should I come back to the game? Should I come back and play again? It's quite clever.
Well, I kind of feel like their strategy is that, plus it's almost like the meme Jay Giggs did where he's reacting to me reacting to Kizzo yesterday. Like it's well, they'll put out a content, and then we'll all be like, okay, this needs to be fixed, and then the content for the next 3 months is fixing the thing that came out. You know what I mean? So it's like there's stuff happening, but is there really? You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that was a lot of what, I mean, Faction Wars is where I'm going with this. A lot, like, there's a lot of these content drops that were kind of like that. I mean, what, didn't Doom Tower have to get fixed? Hydra is maybe going to be one of these things.
Oh, let's hope so. Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. But when you look at, I mean, they've now got, what, a 70-strong team in Raid, which I think is almost double what it was 12 months ago. You know, if you're a game that's just trying to milk money for the next 12 months before it dies out, you don't go and invest in doubling your team, extra facilities, and all that type of stuff. You just don't do it. In fact, you do the complete opposite. You know, I've been involved in companies where they have financial consultants come in. Basically, what they do is they strip a whole load of your cost base out, and then you profiteer for a month or two, and then you either sell yourself on or you fade away. Basically, that's not what Raid are doing. Raid are doing the opposite to that. They're investing to try and continue to grow. So I just don't see the grounds of Raid is fading away at all. And honestly, there's no competitors that do what Raid can do. Like and that's what I'm most shocked about. Where's the people coming in with visuals like Raid, with the quality of game that Raid's got, with a PC and a mobile version? Like, they just don't feel like they exist. We keep seeing stuff popping up. It's like, yeah, okay, this part is better than Raid, but the game's not better than Raid. And I'm really surprised someone hasn't kind of grabbed it and gone for it.
And I want to address another point too, which is like, just because YouTube channels don't get as many views as they used to does not mean that the topic matter of which that person is talking is suddenly just gone. Like that is such a cocky mindset where if I can't get views, then it's dead. And everyone else who is getting views and growing, it doesn't matter. Let's just ignore that. Okay, I feel like that is such a bad mindset. It's almost defeatist to the point of like of not being able to realize you need to evolve your content. Like, I can say that because I'm one of the people who has shrunk because I did not do as good of a job as the man sitting right here. It's that easy to understand. Like, you know, you did a better job, you got the results for it, and my only answer would be if that is really the discussion of the game is dying because my YouTube channel is dying, then make a better YouTube channel. That's my counter.
Yeah. And I've always been in this kind of position, like, concentrate on what you can do better. Don't come and tell me what other people are doing badly. Yeah, so I kind of really hate that type of video where it's throwing people under the bus and saying, you know, this person's doing crap, this person's doing crap, this person could do better. Why don't you invest that energy and that time in trying to improve yourself? That's where I've always been. I really dislike it. I really dislike this kind of, in fact, that even comes back to my sales days. It's like, don't talk about your competitors to the person that you want to win business from. Don't tell them what they're doing shit. Tell them what you do well. And I've always kind of lived by that. But yeah, it feels bad in a way because I do see some other people getting less views than they used to, but I also see some people growing as well. And you know, we've spoken about that here, and it does come down to, like, can you reinvent yourself or bring something different to the table and kind of rebuild some energy? You know, I put these shorts out daily for a while. I didn't make any money. I made literally zero money from them. Like, I'm not even exaggerating, 0 pence from these shorts, and it was a lot of time and work. All I was thinking was, how do I bring something fresh for the next 2 months? You know, how do I try and reach a different level of viewer, perhaps? And you know, you then reevaluate and say, did that work? Yes or no? And then you go again. That's kind of where I come at this from. But it's fun to try.
And I don't even think that it's even you coming from that point. It's the data coming from that point. I mean, like, you can just look at the data and it backs up exactly what you're saying. I mean, there's multiple people growing, there's multiple people shrinking. And I think it's very easy to look at those channels and be able to tell the people that are growing are putting in more effort. It's pretty much that simple. And I think that's what it boils down to. So I don't know about you personally, but I just kind of wanted to counter the point because I've seen a lot of my friends get thrown under the bus by name. It just kind of sits wrong with me, to be bluntly honest. So it's nice to go through, look at the data, and actually just be able to say, I mean, factually, you're right, if we ignore all of the math and data that says you're wrong.
100%. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That about wraps it up. Do you got any last closing points you want to throw in here for our argument on whether or not Raid Shadow Legends is in fact dying?
I don't know if I've got anything else, really. I'm really keen to see what they do for their 3rd anniversary. We're talking Raid being 3 years old. 3 years old and some, I think, because they were kind of abated before that. But, this is a established game now. So I'm keen to see what they've got coming up. But the facts are the facts. These graphs are there and it's pretty damn clear. It's not. It's definitely not.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Hell Hades. Go, I don't know who would be watching this video that does not know you, because literally the entire video is talking about you being at the top of the algorithm. But you know what? Go subscribe to Hell Hades if you don't know him, if my plug means anything at this point.
Appreciate it. Cheers, Darth. Thanks for having me on, man.
You have a good one.